Hello, all ICSE students. I have come once again to help you with the play this year, Julius Caesar. You all must be knowing that in class 10 we have only Act 3, 4, and 5 of the play, right? The play has been bifurcated. Act 1 and Act 2 will be done in class 9 and they will not be asked in examination for class 10. So in class 10 you only have to prepare Act 3, 4 and 5 for your upcoming board exam. So today I am going to do Act 3 Scene 1 with you. I'll explain you the text. We'll do all references, whatever information you need to know. Of course I'll be giving you that. So with the help of the text we'll be able to do that. Okay. So here if we talk about Act 3 Scene 1, children, you will know that this scene is the one which brings crisis of the play. This is the most important scene. Usually it is called murder scene because in this scene only Julius Caesar will be killed by these conspirators. Of course the scene is very interesting. So from examination point of view, I would like to tell you that you need to understand the meaning of each and every word, speech, and try to learn some important lines also, and at the same time the references that have been used, whether they are historical references, classical allusions, so all that you need to understand and learn for writing good answers. Alright, so let's begin with the text. So Act 3 Scene 1 takes place in Rome before the Capitol, the Senate sitting above. A crowd of people, among them Artemidorus. Artemidorus, we know that he is a commoner. In the previous scene we came to know that he is ready with a written warning. He is going to hand over a letter to Caesar informing him about the threat of life that he has. Then the soothsayer, of course the soothsayer who made prediction about Ides of March, and he is also there among the people who have gathered there to receive Caesar. Flourish of trumpets as soon as Caesar comes. Enter Caesar, Brutus, Cassius, Casca, Decius Brutus, Metellus Cimber. You know, these are all conspirators. Trebonius, Cinna, Antony, Lepidus, Populus, Publius, and others. So they all arrive there. Now, when Caesar is moving, both sides you can understand crowd of people is standing over there to receive him, to somehow to pay him respect, to pay him honor. So among them the soothsayer is there. Now as soon as Caesar looks at the soothsayer, Caesar is somehow seen as an arrogant person. Okay, so suddenly he says, the Ides of March are come, the Ides of March has come. For that soothsayer says, I Caesar, but not gone. Yes, it has come, but it's not gone. So he is trying to warn him. It is a verbal warning that he is trying to give to Caesar. Then suddenly Artemidorus says, Hail Caesar, read this schedule. Schedule is the document. But suddenly he is being intervened by Decius Brutus, and he gives another paper to Caesar to read. And he says, Trebonius does desire you to overread. Trebonius wants you to read this at your best leisure, as soon as you are free. This his humble suit. He wants you to read this humble suit, this humble request. Now Artemidorus, he says, O Caesar, read mine first. Read mine first, for mine is a suit that touches Caesar nearer. Mine is a request, mine is a suit that touches Caesar nearer, that touches Caesar's life nearer. It is close to Caesar's life. Read it, great Caesar. But then Caesar somehow, he overlooks it and he says that what touches us ourselves shall be last serves. What is important for my life, which is more close to my life, will be served last. But then Artemidorus tries to emphasize, he tries to insist him. He says, delay not, Caesar, read it instantly. Caesar says, what, is the fellow mad? Why? Because of the insistence that he was making, he was trying to insist him. So for that he doesn't like it. He says, is the fellow mad? Now Publius says, Sirrah, give place. Now Publius, he interferes and somehow he makes Artemidorus go away from Caesar. Now Cassius, at that time, he also calls Artemidorus saying, what? Urge you your petition in the street? You urge your petition, you take your request here in the street. come to the capital. If you have something urgent, it's better you talk to Caesar in the capital. And by saying that, these people deliberately did that because they did not want that Caesar should get that document and he should read it. So now Caesar goes up to the Senate house. Alright, he goes up there. Now he is away from the common people. He goes up to the Senate house and the rest follow him. Populus says, I wish your enterprise today may thrive. Now, while following, Populus is there who goes to Cassius and very softly he says, I wish your enterprise today may thrive. I wish your enterprise, your ambition is fulfilled today. Now Cassius suddenly, he's afraid. He says, what enterprise, Populus? Populus says, fare you well, and then he advances to Caesar. He goes to Caesar. He says, he doesn't say anything else. He just says, fare you well, and then he goes to Caesar. Now, of course, you can understand that Cassius has become really scared because he thinks that their plan has been revealed and Populus is going to tell Caesar about it. Now, at that time, Brutus comes and he says, what said Populus Lena? What said Populus Lena? Populus Lena is his full name. Cassius says, he wished today our enterprise might thrive. I fear a purpose is discovered. I fear a purpose, a plan is discovered. It is revealed. So Brutus says, look how he makes to Caesar. Mark him. Let us mark him. Let us notice how he talks to Caesar. What kind of conversation is going on between them. They just want to get an idea whether he is going to inform Caesar about their plan or not. Then Cassius says, Casca, be sudden, for we fear prevention. We fear prevention. We may have to stop. Here only we may have to prevent our plan. So please be sudden. Why is he saying this to Casca? Because Casca is supposed to be the first person who has to stab Caesar. Brutus, what shall be done if this be known? If this plan is known to everybody, what shall be done? What will we do? Cassius or Caesar never shall turn back, for I will slay myself. Cassius or Caesar, they will never come together. They will never turn back together because I will slay myself. If this plan is revealed, if we are caught, then I am going to kill myself. We both won't come together. I can't live with him. Alright? For that, Brutus says, Cassius, be constant, be firm. Populus Lena speaks not of a purpose. See, he's noticing their gestures, their facial expressions. He says that he's not speaking of a purpose, because look, he smiles and Caesar doesn't change. Caesar does not change. He doesn't change. He doesn't change his expressions. So Lena is also smiling and even Caesar doesn't have any change in his expressions. So don't worry, he's not revealing anything about our purpose. So for that, Cassius says, Tribonus knows his time. For look you, Brutus, he draws Mark Antony out of way. Now Tribonus knows his time. As per the plan, Tribonus was supposed to take Antony away so that Julius Caesar doesn't have any of his friends surrounding him. Alright, so Antony was there with Caesar and Tribonus deliberately, he made him involved in a type of conversation so that he can take him away. So Decius Brutus now says, where is Metellus Cimber? Let him go and presently prefer his suit to Caesar. Now this is also part of their plan. What they thought, that Metellus Cimber, whose brother has been banished by Caesar, should go to Caesar and he should begin a kind of conversation where he will request Caesar to change his decision and take his brother back. So this is a part of plan. Why? Because while he'll start, all these conspirators, they will also advocate his suit, and this way they all will be able to go close to Caesar. They will surround him and there only they will attack him. So this is their plan. Okay, so that's why Decius Brutus is asking, where is Cimber, Metellus Cimber? Let him go and presently means at once, prefer his suit to Caesar. He should at once start making his request to Caesar. So Brutus says, he is addressed. Press near and second him. He is addressed. He is addressing Caesar. Press near. Go closer. Alright, now let us also go close to Caesar and second him. Second him means support him, advocate him. This is what these people have planned. So Cinna says, Casca, you are the first that rears your hand. You are the first who strikes Caesar. Rear your hand means who strikes Caesar. You are the first one to strike Caesar. See, now you see the conversation is going on between Caesar and Metellus Cimber. Caesar says, are we all ready? What is now amiss? That Caesar and his Senate must redress. Redress means repair, reform. Alright. So, as they have already planned, Metellus Cimber goes to Caesar to request about his brother's banishment. He wants that Caesar should take him back. So for that he goes and he says, most high, most mighty, and most puissant Caesar. Puissant means powerful. Most high, mighty, and powerful Caesar, Metellus Cimber throws before thy seat an humble heart. And then he kneels down. So he addresses him, and you can see the way he addresses as if he is trying to flatter him. Now, from that, Caesar clearly understands why Cimber is calling him all that and what is it that he is going to ask for. And Caesar suddenly says, I must prevent thee, Cimber. I must stop you, Cimber. These couchings and these lowly courtesies might fire the blood of ordinary men. These couchings, you know, the way, the kind of bowings, couchings here means these bowings and these lowly courtesies, these humble salutation, what you are making right, might fire the blood of ordinary men. It can fire, it can agitate, or it can rouse the blood of ordinary men. Now, from this we come to know that he doesn't from this we come to know that he doesn't count himself among ordinary people. All right, he says that it can arouse the feelings, it can arouse the blood of ordinary men and turn preordinance and first decree into the law of children, and turn preordinance means predestined, and first decree means law that is there from the beginning, you know, first decree into the law of children. He says that these humble salutations, these bowings, the way you are making request, it can affect only ordinary people, and in that way even the first law or predestined law can can go into the law of children, means it can be changed, like the way means it can be changed the way, you know, children keep changing the laws, so it can become the law of children among ordinary people with such courtesies and bowings. Be not fond, be not foolish. Fond here means foolish. Don't be foolish to think that Caesar bears such rebel blood that will be thawed from the true quality with that which melts fools. Caesar says, be not fond. Fond means foolish. Don't be foolish to think that Caesar bears such rebel blood. Rebel blood here means false spirit. Caesar bears such false spirit that will be thawed. Thawed means compelled. That will be compelled from the true quality with that which melts fools. That it can be compelled from true quality with which fools are melted. Alright, which melts fools. I mean, sweet words, low crooked courtesies, courtesies which are made on bent knees, low crooked courtesies, courtesies which are made on bent knees, and base spaniel fawning. Base means low. Spaniel fawnings or couchings that are made by a dog just to be petted. So you see, from this we come to know about the arrogance of Caesar. When Metellus Cimber is requesting him something, though he is his friend, he is not ready to listen, and he says that he is not among ordinary people who can be compelled or persuaded so easily. Once he has taken a decision, then he is not going to budge, and in a way he keeps condemning ordinary people, saying that he is not a fool like them, his spirit is not like that false spirit which can be persuaded, which can be compelled from the true quality of spirit. And he says that these low crooked courtesies, these low fawnings, they are not going to make me budge. Thy brother by decree is banished. Your brother is banished by decree, by law. If thou dost bend and pray and fawn for him, I spurn thee like a cur out of my way. If you bend, pray, and fawn for him, then I will kick you. Spurn you, spurn here means kick. I will kick you like a cur. Cur means like a dog out of my way. No, Caesar does not wrong, nor without cause will he be satisfied. You need to understand that Caesar doesn't wrong anybody without reason, and without reason he cannot be satisfied. Now, for that, Metellisimba says, is there no voice more worthy than my own to sound more sweetly in great Caesar's ear for the repealing of my banished brother? Is there no more voice which can convince you, which may sound sweeter than my own voice for repealing of my brother, who can speak about repealing means recalling from exile, who can speak about recalling from exile of my banished brother? So when he asks for somebody else's favor, now Brutus speaks at that time and he says, I kiss thy hand, but not in flattery, Caesar, desiring thee that Publius Cimber may have an immediate freedom of repeal. Now Brutus advocates the plea of Metellus Cimber, and he tries to convince Caesar, saying that I kiss your hand not in flattery, but I just desire that Publius Cimber may have an immediate freedom of repeal. Now for that, Caesar is astonished. He says, what, Brutus? Brutus, you are asking for that, Cassius says, pardon Caesar, Caesar pardon. No, now what are they? So, now what are they doing? One by one, they are coming closer to Caesar. Alright, first Cimber went there, he started with that plea. Now Brutus is coming, now Cassius has come. So they are actually surrounding him. This is a play which is meant to be performed, and there are so many things that we come to know through the actions of and there are so many things that we come to know through the actions of the characters, actors. So but here when we are reading it, we need to understand. So one by one, they come close. So he says that, now Cassius says, pardon Caesar, Caesar pardon, as low as to thy foot doth Cassius fall. Cassius falls as low as to your foot to beg enfranchisement for Publius Caesar. Enfranchisement means freedom. To request freedom for Publius Cimber. Now Cassius says, I could be well moved if I were as you. Now imagine, in the previous speech, he made the comparison between him and ordinary people, saying that he is not among the ordinary people. Now he is comparing himself to his friends also, other senators. He says, I could be well moved if I were as you. That way we know he doesn't like Cassius, And suddenly he says, if I were you, if I were like you, I could have been moved. If I could pray to move, prayers would move me. If I could pray to move means change a decision, then prayers would move me. But I am constant as the northern star, of whose true fixed and resting quality there is no fellow in the firmament. He says, but I am constant as the northern star, of whose true fixed and resting quality. Resting means motionless. Motionless quality. There is no other fellow in the firmament. Firmament is the sky. So he means to say that as pole star is fixed, other stars may move, but pole star is the one who is always fixed. And resting quality. Resting quality means that it is motionless. Its position never changes. Alright, that's why pole star was used for by sailors to navigate their ships, to let them know the direction. So he says that, but I am as constant as the northern star, as the pole star, whose motionless and constant quality, there is nobody else, there is no other star in the sky. The skies are painted with unnumbered sparks, innumerable sparks here means stars. They are all fire, and everyone doth shine, but there is but one in all doth hold his place. So in the world it is furnished well with men, and men are flesh and blood and apprehensive. Yet in the number I do know but one, that unassailable holds on his rank, unshaked of motion, and that I am he. Alright. Now he compares himself further with the northern star, saying that the sky is full of innumerable stars. There are unnumbered, they cannot be counted, uncountable stars. They are all fire, they all are made up of fire, and every one does shine, and every star shines. But there is but one in all doth hold his place. But only one star is there that holds a place different from others. Why? Because it is fixed and constant. So in the world, so in this world, it is furnished well with men, which is full of people, full of men, and men are flesh and blood, and all people, all men are made up of flesh and blood, and apprehensive. Apprehensive means intelligent, and intelligent, yet in the number, yet among the people I do know but one, that unassailable. Unassailable means which cannot be attacked, who cannot be attacked. That unassailable one that cannot be attacked holds on his rank. There is only one person who holds the rank of being unassailable, unattackable, unshaked of motion, who is unaffected by motion, movements of objects around him, and that I am he, and that person is me. I am that person. Let me a little show it even in this. Let me a little show it. Let me show it even in this case, that I was constant. Simba should be banished, and constant do remain to keep him so. I am constant, I am determined that he should be banished, and I remain determined that he will be kept banished only. Now you see, look at the irony here. He calls himself unassailable, unattackable, and he will be attacked by these conspirators just after some time. Now Cinna says, "O Caesar," but then Caesar, "Hence away, will thou lift up Olympus? Will you be able to lift up Olympus?" Now Olympus is Olympus is a mountain in Greece, and as per illusion, it was believed that it is the homes of gods. He is comparing himself to gods, and that's what he says, that he is unshakable as Mount Olympus. So will it be possible for him to lift up Olympus or to shake Olympus? Now Decius Brutus says, "Great Caesar." Now one by one, they are trying to convince him. One by one, they are coming closer to him. So now Decius Brutus also tries and says, "Great Caesar." Again he is interrupted by Caesar. "Doth not Brutus bootless kneel?" Didn't you realize that even Brutus kneels, and that too without any success? Now Casca, at that time, when they all have come closer to him and they all have surrounded him, as it was decided, Casca is the first one. So Casca suddenly says, "Speak, hands for me." And then he stabs Caesar. And as soon as he stabs, first Casca does that, then other conspirators, and lastly Brutus stabs Caesar. And when Brutus does that, Caesar says, "Et tu, Brutus, you too, Brutus. Et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus." Then falls Caesar. Then Caesar falls. Now this is very important. Rather, I would say that please learn these by heart, and you can always quote these words in your answers. You see, from here we come to know that when other people stabbed him, he wasn't much affected. But as soon as Brutus stabs him, this is something which breaks his heart, because he was not at all expecting it from Brutus. Brutus was his friend, close friends. He always used to rely on Brutus. Or we can say that he always had this feeling that Brutus can understand him, what all he was doing. So as soon as Brutus stabs him, suddenly he says, "Et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus." Then falls Caesar. Then Caesar falls, and he dies on the spot. Now as soon as he dies, these conspirators, they start shouting the slogan. Cinna says, "Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Run hence, proclaim, announce, cry it about the streets, tell everybody that tyranny is dead and they all are free now." Cassius says, "Some to the common pulpits, cry out." Pulpits are, public platforms where public gatherings used to take place, and these leaders will address from there. So he says, "Some of you should go to common pulpits, cry out, announce liberty, freedom, enfranchisement." Enfranchisement means liberty only, all right. Then Brutus says, people and senators, be not affrighted. Affrighted means afraid. Now you see people start running away, senators also start running away suddenly. They start running here and there, the situation is chaotic, and Brutus is trying to pacify everybody, and he says, don't be afraid, fly not, don't run, stand stiff, stand motionless. Ambition's debt is paid. Ambition's debt is paid. Caesar is dead because he had to pay the debt of being ambitious. Alright? For that, Casca says, go to the pulpit, Brutus. Brutus, go to the pulpit and announce from there. Decius Brutus says, and Cassius too, and Cassius should also do that. Now Brutus asks, where is Publius? So Cinna says here, quite confounded with this mutiny. Confounded means confused. He is quite confused with this mutiny, with this revolt. So they all were, requesting on behalf of Publius only. So Metellus Cimber says, stand fast together, lest otherwise some friend of Caesar should chance. We all should stand together, otherwise some Caesar's friend may take a chance and may harm us, hurt us, attack us. For that Brutus says, talk not of standing. Publius, good cheer. Don't talk about standing. Publius, good cheer. Be merry. There is no harm intended to your person. You are not going to be harmed at all, nor to no Roman else, nor any other Roman will be harmed. So tell them, Publius. Publius, tell everybody that nobody else is going to be harmed. Cassius says, and leave us, Publius, lest otherwise that the people rushing on us should do your age some mischief, because Publius was old in age. So Cassius even asked him to leave from there, and he says, don't stand with us, otherwise the people who may rush on us, who may attack us, so because you are an old person, so they may do some kind of mischief to you as well. Then Brutus says, do so, please, yes, you go, and let no man abide this deed, but we the doers. No man abide this deed. We do not want anybody else to be hurt, to take up the responsibility of this deed, but only we the doers. Those who have done it, only they will own this deed, So at that time, re-enter Trebonius. Trebonius comes over there. So Cassius asks him, where is Antony? Because Antony is Caesar's friend and they must be expecting him to do something. So he asks, where is he? Trebonius says, fled to his house amazed. He was so amazed and he ran away. He fled to his house. Men, wives and children stare, cry out and run as it were doomsday. Now you see all people, men, women, even children, they all are staring, they are crying, running here and there as if it were doomsday. Doomsday means the day of the doom, when the world is supposed to be ended. Alright, now Brutus says, fates, we will know your pleasure. Fates here means three goddesses of destiny who decides three goddesses of destiny who decide the birth and death of every man, what all is going to happen to his fate. So he says that fates, we will know your pleasure, we will know what you have planned for us, that we shall die, we know. We all know, we means humans, we all know that we have to die. It is but the time and drawing days out. It is but the time of death, when we are going to die, and drawing days out for how long they are going to live, that men stand upon, that men want to know. We all know that we will die, but when are we going to die, and for how long we are going to live, this is what people want to know. So Cassius says, why? He that cuts off 20 years of life cuts off so many years of fearing death. A person who cuts off 20 years of life means who dies 20 years before, then in that way he cuts off so many years of fearing death. Why? Because when we are living, we are always fearing death, and this fear only wipes away once we are dead. Alright, so for that Brutus says, grant that, if you agree to that, and then is death a benefit? If you agree to this, that when we live we are always fearing death, then death is a benefit, because it is with death only that this fear is removed, it vanishes. So are we Caesar's friends. In that way we are Caesar's friends, that have abridged, that have reduced his time of fearing death. We have reduced his time, or we have cut off the time of fearing death by making him die. Stoop, Romans, stoop. Stoop means bow. Stoop, Romans, stoop, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood. up to the elbows, and besmear our swords. Besmear means stain our swords, stain our swords. Then walk we forth even to the marketplace, and waving our red weapons over our heads, let's all cry, peace, freedom, and liberty. So Brutus says that we all should bow, and we all should bathe our hands in Caesar's blood. We should even put the blood on our swords also. And then we all should move ahead even to the marketplace and waving our red weapons. Why red weapons? Means those swords which are being red with the blood of Caesar. We all should wave them over our heads, and let's all cry, peace, freedom, liberty. So Brutus here justifies his action, and he even takes the responsibility. He owns the action of killing Caesar, saying that they have done it for peace, freedom, and liberty. So Cassius says, stoop then and wash. Alright, let's do that. How many ages hence shall this our lofty scene be acted over in states unborn and accents yet unknown? He says that we have done such a historical act that this act will be played in the form of drama, for ages hence. For ages it will be played on stage. And this, our lofty scene, will be acted over even in unborn states, and even in languages which are unknown. Brutus says, how many times shall Caesar bleed in sport? In sport means for entertainment. Brutus says, in this way, if this action is replayed, how many times will Caesar have to die? Will have to bleed for entertainment. That now on Pompey's bases lie along, no worthier than the dust. And Caesar, who is lying on Pompey's basis, who is lying on the basis of Pompey's statue, he is lying here no worthier than dust. So Cassius says, so oft as that shall be, as often as this tragedy shall be enacted, so often shall the not of us be called the men that gave their country liberty. As often as this tragedy will be enacted, as often shall this band of conspirators, not of us means this band of conspirators will be called the men that gave their country liberty, will be called the men who gave liberty to their country. Now Decius Brutus says, what? Shall we forth? Shall we move ahead? Cassius says, aye, yes, every man away. Brutus shall lead, and Brutus will lead us, and we will grace his heels with the most boldest and best hearts of Rome. He says, yes, we all should move ahead, and Brutus will lead us, and we will follow his foot, and we will follow his heels, means we will follow his footprints with the most bold and best hearts of Rome. So at that moment only, when they all decided to move ahead, a servant enters. Now Brutus says, soft, who comes here? A friend of Antony's. So he is a servant of Antony. So servant comes and says, thus Brutus did my master bid me kneel. So he kneels down and he says that my master asked me to kneel like this. Thus did Mark Antony bid me fall down. And then he falls down, and he says, this way Mark Antony asked me to fall down. And being prostrate, thus he bade me say. And being prostrate means lying flat on ground. Lying flat on ground. And being in this position, by lying flat, and being in this position, lying flat on ground, he asked me to say, Brutus is noble, wise, valiant, and honest. Caesar was mighty, bold, royal, and loving. Say I love Brutus, and I honor him. Say I feared Caesar, honored him, and loved him. So we see that Antony has sent his servant. The servant is bowing down to Brutus. Rather he has, rather he is lying flat on the ground, and then he says that. And then he is trying to flatter Brutus by saying all good about him, that Brutus is noble, wise, valiant, and honest. Caesar was powerful, bold, royal, and loving. And he commands the servant to tell Brutus that he loves Brutus, he honors him, he respects him, and also tell him that he was afraid of Caesar, he honored him and loved him too. If Brutus will vouchsafe that Antony may safely come to him, vouchsafe means promise. If Brutus will promise that Antony may safely come to him and be resolved how Caesar hath deserved to lie in death, and if he may be resolved, if he may be given reason, why Caesar deserved to lie in death, Mark Antony shall not love Caesar dead so well as Brutus living. So he asks for two things. He says that if Brutus promises him that he can come to that Antony can come to Brutus without being harmed, and if he is given justification, if he is given proper reason of why Caesar should lie in death like that, then he says that he will not love Caesar dead as good as Brutus living, but will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus through the hazards of this untrod state with all true faith. But if he is given the proper reason, he will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus. He will follow what all Brutus is about to do through the hazards of this untrod state. Hazards means dangers. Through the dangers of this untrod state. Untrod state here means unaccustomed state of affairs with all true faith. He will believe him. Alright? So says my master Antony. For that Brutus says, thy master is a wise and valiant Roman. Your master is very wise and valiant, brave Roman. I never thought him worse, and I never thought him less than that. Tell him, so please him come unto this place, he shall be satisfied. Tell him that if he wants to come to this place, he will be satisfied, and by mine honor depart untouched. He will depart from here unharmed, untouched. So servant says, I will fetch him presently. I'll bring him just now. And then he exits from there. Now you see the servant has left and Brutus and Cassius are there. They are discussing. Brutus says, I know that we shall have him well to friend. I know that we'll be able to have him as a friend. For that Cassius says, I wish we may, because Cassius is apprehensive about that. But yet have I a mind that fears him much. Still I have a mind that fears him much. I am afraid of him. And my misgiving still falls shrewdly to the purpose. And my misgiving means my doubts still means always. My doubts always fall shrewdly to the purpose. They most of the time they are true. For that Brutus says, here comes Antony. And then Antony re-enters the stage. So he bids him welcome. He says, welcome Mark Antony. Antony says, now Antony comes and he looks at Caesar, who is lying, whose body is lying under the statue of Pompey. He says, O mighty Caesar, dost thou lie so low? Do you lie so low? Are all thy conquests, glories, triumphs, spoils shrunk to this little measure? Have all your conquests, means wars that you have fought, glories that you have brought, triumphs, victories that you have done, spoils, struggles, shrunk to this little measure? Fare thee well. So as soon as he sees Caesar's body, these are the feelings suddenly that comes to his mind, to his heart. And after that he speaks to these people. He says, I know not, gentlemen, what you intend. I really don't know what you intend, what you do, what you purpose to do. Who else must be let blood? Who else is rank? Who else must be let blood? Means who else will be killed? Who else is rank? Who else will be given a position? I don't know what you intend, what your purpose is. Whether who else is going to be killed by you, or who else is going to be given a position or a rank by you. If I myself has to be killed, there is no hour so fit, so appropriate, so proper as Caesar's death hour. Now he makes a request. He says that if you have to kill me also, if you have decided, if you intend to kill me, then there is no other time which is more appropriate as Caesar's death hour, nor no instrument of half that worth as those your swords. At the same time, no other weapon, no other instrument has half of the worth than your swords, made rich with the most noble blood of all this world. Why? Because your swords have become rich after killing, after having the blood of the most noble person of this world. I do beseech you, I do request you, if you bear me hard, if you have grudges against me, if you have harsh feelings for me, now, whilst your purple hands do reek and smoke, now while your purple hands, why purple hands? Because they were blood stained, do reek and smoke, fulfill your pleasure. At this time, when your hands are already blood stained, and they have the smell of blood, they reek and smoke, it's better you please fulfill your pleasure. Kill me at this time only. Live 1,000 years, I shall not find myself so apt to die. I wish you that you should live 1,000 years, and I do not wish anything else for myself than to die so aptly. It will be the most appropriate if I die at this moment. No place will please me so, no mean of death, as here by Caesar, and by you cut off the choice and master spirits of this age. And he says that no other place will please me to die. I will be happy to die at this place only. No mean of death, no other way of dying, but then to be cut off by you, and to lie here by Caesar, and to be killed by you, who is the choice and master spirit of this age. So he requests these people to kill him also if they bear hard feelings for him. Brutus says, O Antony, beg not death of us. Don't ask for death from us, Though now we must appear bloody and cruel, as by our hands and this our present act, you see we do, yet see you but our hands, and this the bleeding business they have done. Our hearts you see not. So Brutus tries to convince him. He says that please don't ask us to kill you, or don't ask for death from us. He says, though we may appear bloody and cruel at this moment. Why? Because of our hands, because as they are blood stained, and because of this present act, this act that we have recently done. We may seem bloody and cruel. You see, we do, yet see you but our hands. You see, you are able to have this opinion about us because you are able to see our hands and this bleeding business they have done, and this bleeding act that these hands have done. Our hearts you see not. You do not see our hearts. They are pitiful. They are full of pity, full of sympathy, and pity to the general wrong of Rome. And because our hearts had that pity, our hearts sympathized with the general people of Rome and the wrong that was done to the people. As fire drives out fire, so pity. So the way fire drives out more fire, in the same way pity also draws pity. Hath done this deed on Caesar. And because of that, this deed on Caesar has been done. For your part, as far as you are concerned, to you our swords have leaden points. To you our swords have leaden points, means they are blunt, they are not sharp. Mark Antony. Our arms in strength of malice, and our hearts of brothers' temper do receive you with all kind of love, good thoughts, and reverence. He says that our hearts in strength of malice, which appear to have malice, but our hearts of brothers' temper, our hearts have the temper of brothers, friendly temper, we do receive you with all kind of love, good thoughts, and respect. For that, Cassius says, your voice shall be as strong as any man's in disposing of new dignities. Voice here means vote. Your vote will be as good as of any other man in disposing of new dignities, new ranks, new positions, Brutus says, only be patient till we have appeased. Appeased means pacify. Till we have pacified the multitude, the crowd, beside themselves with fear, and then we will deliver you the cause why I, that did love Caesar when I struck him, have thus proceeded. He says that we just want you to be patient till we are able to pacify the multitude which is so much in fear. People are fearful. So let us pacify them once, and then we will tell you, we will deliver you the reason why I struck Caesar, who loved Caesar equally. Alright? For that, Antony says, I doubt not of your wisdom. I don't doubt your wisdom. I know that you are a wise man. Let each man render me his bloody hand. Let me shake hand with each man. And then he shakes hand with each of these conspirators. First, Marcus Brutus, will I shake with you. Next, Caius Cassius, do I take your hand. Now, Decius Brutus, yours. Now, yours, Metellus, yours, Cinna, and my valiant Casca, yours. Though last, not last in love, yours, good Tribunus. Gentlemen, alas, what shall I say? So first he shakes hands with each one of them, and then he says, all gentlemen, alas, I am feeling sad. What shall I say? What to say? My credit now stands on such slippery ground that one of the bad ways you must conceit me, either a coward or a flatterer. He says that my credit, my reputation, credit here means reputation. My reputation here lies on such slippery grounds. It is on a stake. That one of the two bad ways you must conceit me. You must understand me on either in either of the two bad ways. Either a coward, either you will call me a coward that I have shaken hands with you because I am afraid of you, or a flatterer, that now I am trying to flatter you to get a position or a rank in the government, in that triumvirate. That I did love thee, Caesar, oh, it is true. If then thy spirit look upon us now, shall it not grieve thee dearer than any death, to see thy Antony making his peace, shaking the bloody fingers of thy foes, most noble in the presence of thy corpse. Corpse here means corpse, that dead body. Now you see, he is feeling sad too, and he says that, oh Caesar, it is true that if your spirit would have been looking at us right now, then it will grieve you more than your death to see that your Antony is making peace with your murderers. He is shaking hands with your enemies in the presence of your dead body. Had I as many eyes as thou hast wounds, weeping as fast as they stream forth thy blood, it would become me better than to close in terms of friendships with thy enemies. He says that if I had as many eyes as you have wounds right now, and the way your wounds are pouring blood, in the same way if my eyes have been pouring tears, that would have suited me, become me more than having a kind of friendship with your enemies. Pardon me, Julius. Pardon me. He is asking for forgiveness from Julius Caesar. Here was thou bade, brave heart. Here didst thou fall, and here thy hunters stand. Here was thou bade, brave heart. You were bade. Bade here means here was thou bade, brave heart. Heart is a deer. Alright. So he is using an analogy, and he compares Caesar to a deer who was brought to a bay. First you were brought here. Alright. Here you were brought, brave heart. Here you were brought, brave heart. Heart is the deer. He is comparing Caesar to deer. Here didst thou fall. Here you fell, and here thy hunters stand. The way a deer is brought to a bay, and then he is, and then the hunters kill him there. So the same situation has happened with Caesar also. Signed in thy spoil, and crimson in thy lathe. So here stand your hunters, signed in your spoil. Spoil means blood. Signed in your blood, and crimsoned, colored in thy lathe. Lathe also means blood, colored in your blood. O world, thou was the forest to this heart. O world, you were the forest to this heart. As a deer lives in the forest, so you were. So Caesar used to live in this world, and this indeed, O world, the heart of thee, and this world was the heart of you, heart of Caesar. How like a deer, strucken by many princes, dost thou here lie? How you lie here like a deer who has been wounded by many princes. Now Cassius says, Mark Antony, and then Antony again interrupts him. Pardon me, Caius Cassius. The enemies of Caesar shall say this. Then in a friend it is called modesty. I am sorry, Cassius. The enemies of Caesar will say this. In a friend, it is called modesty. So Cassius, he suddenly calls Mark Antony, and then Antony interrupts him because Cassius is a bit apprehensive. He is speaking in favor of Caesar. He is feeling pity, sympathizing with his death. So for that, Antony says, pardon me, Caius Cassius. The enemies of Caesar shall say this. I know enemies of Caesar will say that, but it is just a cold modesty that I am going to give to my friend. Alright, in my friendship with him. Cassius says, I blame you not for praising Caesar, so I don't blame you for praising Caesar. But what compact mean you have to have with us? But what compact? Compact is the agreement. But what kind of agreement are you going to have with us? Will you be pricked in number to our friends? Will you be counted? Pricked means ticked. Be counted in number of our friends. Or shall we on and not depend on you? Or shall we move on and should not rely on you? So, Cassius wants clarity. Are you among us? Are you among our friends? Or you are against us? For that Antony says, therefore I took your hands, but was indeed swayed from the point by looking. Therefore I took your hands. Antony says, that's why I shook hands with you. But was indeed actually swayed from the point. I was distracted from the point by looking down on Caesar. He says, of course, I am friends with you, but when I looked at Caesar, I got distracted. Friends am I with you all and love you all, upon this hope that you shall give me reasons why and wherein Caesar was dangerous. He says, of course, I am friends with you all, I love you all, provided that you give me a suitable reason for why and in what manner was Caesar dangerous. For that Brutus says, or else otherwise were this a savage spectacle. If we are not able to provide you a justified reason, then of course it is going to be a wild scene. Our reasons are so full of good regard that were you, Antony, the son of Caesar, you should be satisfied. Our reasons are so justified, they are so full of regard that if you had been the son of Caesar, even you would have been satisfied. For that Antony says, that's all I seek, that's all I want. And am moreover suitor that I may produce his body to the marketplace, and in the pulpit, as becomes a friend, speak in the order of his funeral. Now Antony makes two more demands. He says that I have other request also. I want that I should produce his body in the marketplace, and as it suits a friend, I would like to speak at his funeral. Brutus says, you shall, Mark Antony. Of course you can. Now you see, Cassius somehow doesn't agree with this. So Cassius says, Brutus, a word with you. I want to speak to you. And then aside to Brutus, he says, you know not what you do. You don't know what you do. Do not consent that Antony speak in his funeral. Please don't agree that he should speak in his funeral. Know you how much the people may be moved by that which he will utter? Don't you know how people can be influenced, or what impact it will have on people by his speech? Brutus says, by your pardon, I will myself into the pulpit first. No, don't worry. He says, I myself will go to the pulpit first and show the reason of our Caesar's death. I'll tell the public the reason of Caesar's death. What Antony shall speak, I will protest. He speaks by leave and by permission. When Antony has to speak, I will protest. I will announce that he is speaking by our permission, by our leave. And that we are contented, Caesar shall have all true rights and lawful ceremonies. And I will also tell them that we are satisfied if Caesar has proper funeral. all true rites and lawful ceremonies which are supposed to be done at the time of funeral of a great leader, he should be given all that. It shall advantage more than do us wrong. He says that it is going to benefit us more than doing us wrong. But then Cassius says, I know not what may fall. I like it not. I don't have, good feelings for it. I don't like it. But Brutus doesn't pay a heed to what Cassius says. And Brutus says, Mark Antony, here, take your Caesar's body. Take you Caesar's body. You can take his body. You shall not in your funeral speech blame us, but speak all good you can devise of Caesar. He says that when you speak at Caesar's funeral, you please admire him. Speak as much as you can speak about Caesar in his praise. But do not blame us. In your funeral speech, you should not blame us. You should not speak against us. And say you do it by a permission. At the same time, you should also tell everybody that you are doing it with a permission. Else otherwise shall you not have any hand at all about his funeral. Otherwise you will not be involved in his funeral at all. And you shall speak in the same pulpit whereto I am going after my speech is ended. And you will speak on the same platform where I am going, and you will speak after I finish my speech. So Antony says, be it so, let it be. I do desire no more. I don't want anything else. Now Brutus says, prepare the body then and follow us, and exeunt all but Antony. So he says, all right, now you may prepare the body and follow us, and and after that they all exit from there except Antony says, oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth. He addresses the body of Caesar as bleeding piece of earth. Pardon me that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Butchers he called murderers. Now you see, we come to know what he actually intends. So he says that that I was so gentle and I was so soft, so meek with these butchers. Please pardon me, forgive me for that. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Ruins, remains of the noblest man. He is referring to the dead body. That you are the body of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy. Now I predict the future. Now I prophesize over these wounds of yours now, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips. The wounds have been compared to dumb mouths. These wounds like dumb mouths do open their ruby lips, red lips. Why red? Because of blood, to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. Your wounds cannot speak, but these dumb mouths will be able to speak, will be able to voice through my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. He says that I prophesy a curse shall light upon the limbs of men. A curse is going to fall on men, and domestic fury, domestic agitation, violence and fierce civil strife, fierce civil war, civil struggle shall cumber all the parts of Italy. It will destruct all parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. Quartered means cut into pieces with hands of war. He says that the situation is going to be so dreadful, so fearful. There is going to be so much of destruction and blood all around. And such situations will come that even mothers will smile when they see their infants being cut into pieces due to war. All pity choked with custom of fell deeds. All pity choked. There will be no pity, no sympathy. Feelings like this will have no say, in these fallen deeds. And Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge with Ate is the goddess of hell, goddess of darkness, goddess of hell, by his side come hot from hell. He says Caesar's spirit will come to take revenge, and with him will come Ate, goddess of hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc. And Caesar's spirit will come from the confines, and in a kingly voice it will cry, havoc, and let slip the dogs of war, and it will release the dogs of war. That this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. And this foul deed will make the earth full of dead bodies. Carrion means dead bodies, full of dead bodies who will be groaning for burial. Why? Because there will be no man alive to bury the dead. Then at that moment only a servant enters. He asks, you serve Octavius Caesar, do you not? Octavius Caesar is the nephew of Julius Caesar. So servant says, I do, Mark Antony. Antony says, Caesar did write for him to come to Rome. Caesar wrote to Octavius Caesar to come to Rome. Servant says he did receive his letters and is coming. Yes, he received the letters and he is